12 months ago, COVID-19 changed our way of life, but we found a new normal, and we did it together. 702, let's walk the talk.
We'll continue our roundtable conversation around the impact of COVID-19 and the lockdown on our mental health. It's been an incredible year for so many of us as we reflect on what we have experienced these last 362 days. But I want to read you an open letter that began like this. Yesterday, I was not okay. After almost 100 days of self-isolation and locking down, I completely broke down and could not get a grip on my emotions or my mental wellness. And of course, I'm reading there the words of Brent Lindeque, who's become known to many South Africans as the good things guy. He started a social media platform for everything good around this time and the things that matter. Brent joins us now on Zoom. We're live streaming this on our Facebook page, by the way, if you want to have a look. Brent, a very good morning to you. Welcome to our program.
Good morning. No one told me that we were live streaming. I'm in my pajamas on Facebook.
It doesn't look like it. You've obviously, figured the art of all of this. I can see the lighting is fantastic. The darker background behind you. You don't look like you are in pajamas at all. It's important, of course, as we reflect on the last year, to not just see or think about the bad times. Those have been challenging enough. It's also important to kind of have a reflective look on where we are and some of the good things that came out of this dark time.
So one of the interesting things when you started reading that letter, I actually got quite heartsore again, because there were moments during this lockdown where I was really not okay. And one of the biggest realizations during the last 362 days was that honesty and feeling the feelings and not being okay was okay. For so long, it's been 8 years now that Good Things Guy has been this platform. And for so long, I thought it was my duty to keep sharing good stories and be positive and always be that guy. And I think what happened in lockdown is I realized that that's impossible. It's absolutely impossible to be happy and to be okay all the time. And as South Africans and the world, we've dealt with a really traumatic time. And to feel those feelings and practice self-care is really important for us to get through what we have been through. I go back to a lot of the time, the loss of normalcy, the loss of loved ones, the loss of incomes. We've all dealt with losses upon losses. And for me, being okay and getting to a point where I would be okay was just knowing that I had days where I wasn't.
Here's the thing, Brent. I mean, we're living through an incredibly difficult time. And as you say, of course, you'd started the Good Things Guy podcast before COVID-19. However, the exponential growth you've seen in this last year has been phenomenal. And we were always told it's bad news that sells.
Yeah. I mean, that's what journalists are taught, right? What leads. But something that actually Mandy Wiener, who's also on 702, something that we've said when we go for coffee and spend time together. If it bleeds, it leads, but if it's good, it should as well. And there has to be some sort of balance. As South Africans and people of the globe, if we're not filling our minds with the reality of what's going on in the country, then we're being silly. Like, we have to know what's happening in our space, in our community, in our country. But if we're also not filling our minds with a bit of hope, a bit of some stories to make us proudly South Africans, things that we can celebrate, then we might lose sight of the end goal and we might lose hope in our country. And we cannot do that. Hope is one of the strongest forces that we have in this world, and we have to offer some sort of balance. So yes, I started sharing good news almost 8 years ago. It started as just one story a day, and we're now up to almost 15 a day. There are 15 good news things happening in South Africa every single day that I'm able to write about and report on. And it's helped me, I think, find a belief in the country and find, like I said, hope. Hope is what it always comes down to.
Share with me a positive story that surprised you from this last year. I mean, obviously, you've been about good stories for quite some time. Have there been one or two that have been particularly surprising, particularly impactful on you this last year?
Yeah. So it was Fred Rogers who said back in the 19 whatevers, when he had that show, The Neighborhood, he said when he used to watch the news and get really sad, his mom would tell him to look for the helpers, because those are the people that we need to celebrate. And in times of tragedy, in times of pain, in trauma, there will always, always be helpers. And the thing that has stood out for me in the last 362 days is how ordinary South Africans, I don't want to call them ordinary South Africans because they actually are extraordinary, have stood up in their own little way to make a difference and help South Africans. Whether that was with feeding, with money, with helping the elderly get the medicine and the food that they needed. It's just been these hundreds and thousands, if not millions of South Africans that have stood up during this time and done many things that the government weren't able to. Feeding South Africa was one of the most harrowing things. At the beginning of lockdown, I don't know how or why, but our email address as Good Things Guy became this conduit for hungry people. And I was waking up every day, and you opened with that open letter that I'd written about not being okay. A lot of that came down to the constant need that I was seeing in front of me, the constant poverty, the hunger, the state of our country at the beginning of lockdown, and how every morning I would wake up, and whether it was a WhatsApp or an email or Facebook messages, there were just people in need of help that weren't getting that help. But what helped me get through was seeing all these people stand up and really just do good things for fellow South Africans. It was actually beautiful to watch.
Brent Lindeque, the Good Things Guy, with us there on the line.
12 months ago, COVID-19 changed our way of life, but we found a new normal, and we did it together. 702, let's walk the talk.